It is the same old injury for a couple of the youngest Rangers. We've got details on the latest of that. And also, it is Saturday early morning. Most of Japan is deep in slumber, but they'll wake up with coffee, donuts, and baseball. We explain why as we get you started on the DLLS Rangers Podcast. With ice water in his veins, Gerrit Cole pitched the Yankees to the ALCS, their first trip there since 2022. We get to the ALCS participant and the would-be participant coming up a little later in the show. And we also have the big news of Game 5 in the NLDS. That's coming up in just a moment. But first, we welcome you to the DLLS Rangers Podcast. Rad's here, John Radigan with J-Dub. That's Jeff Wilson. We got the prophet over there. Elijah is handling all of the technical aspects, including the job of pulling Abs up from back home in Sweet Home, Alabama, Abby.
Sweet Home, Alabama. Yeah, it's good to be here for a few days.
Yeah, it's great to have you on the show still. And I want you to be, front and center the whole show, except for 1 second. I want you to stand up and show everybody the chair you're sitting in, which, by the way, is also the chair I want as my Christmas present. Okay. It's going on my list. Okay. I love it. Go ahead. Yep. Look at there. You don't even have to stand. Look at there. What a chair. That's fantastic.
We've got a few of them.
You got a matching set? Okay.
I bet you do. Yeah, we're going to talk to her dad, Todd Jones, a little later in the show as well. We're going to be keeping up with the Joneses, as we like to do during the off season. But very first, Jeff, some Rangers news on the injury front. And I say it's the same old injuries. It's more like just the same injury that won't quite heal for a couple of the youngest Rangers stars.
Yeah, the Rangers sent this out to the beat writers at 11 a.m. Right after I finished doing the weekly podcast. Josh Young had tendon release surgery on his right wrist, the one that was broken April 1st. He had that done Tuesday in Los Angeles. He's going to need 3 to 4 weeks recovery time before he can start strengthening it, and then he can go into his offseason program. Evan Carter had an ablation on his back, and ablation is like I don't know. I guess the layman's term is you're kind of burning off the nerves to stop sending the signal to the brain that there's pain there. So he had that done last week here in Dallas, where he's spending the offseason. He started a hitting progression at TMI Sports in Arlington. That's the home of Dr. Keith Meister, where the Rangers do a lot of their rehab stuff. And then Adolis Garcia had a knee exam this week in Dallas. He has a sprained left patella tendon that does not require surgery, but he's going to have 8 weeks of rehab, and then he'll begin his regular off-season program. They're doing it now to, I guess, get ahead of any potential setbacks later in the offseason as you get closer to spring training. The goal is to give these guys as much off-season as possible to, get ready for 2025. And then we saw the how injuries slowed some guys in spring training this year when they were finally healthy. And then, for Josh, it's an ongoing issue. It's something he doesn't want to keep creeping into his seasons, getting cortisone injections and things like that. So the tendon repair is, I guess, the plate might have been on the tendon. And it's just in a weird spot. So they did this little deal, and they expect that to go a long way toward keeping him healthy in 2025. And, as the Rangers seek to improve, they got to do internal improvements first, and they have to be healthy to get better, some of these guys, and those three are at the top of the list.
No doubt about it. And Abs, I think that, if there's any good news in this, it's certainly that it is early in the offseason. Obviously, a year ago, the Rangers weren't even that close to being done with their year. So it gives these guys almost a full offseason to recover and get ready for next spring.
Yeah, I was going to say, if there's any time to do it, it is now. And if surgery is needed, you would rather do that in this time. I mean, you have the opportunity to do that and, take rehab at your own pace. So I think that Josh Young being able to do this is going to be the most beneficial thing, instead of trying to, avoid a surgery and play through it and then hurt himself even more. That's just not going to benefit anybody. So I do think, honestly, I think it's kind of good news.
Yeah,
No.
I guess you have more resolution, more clarity, a plan. So you're going forward and hoping that this is what gets it done.
Yep,
Yeah.
No doubt about that. And certainly, like we say, sooner rather than later, that is really good news. Now, this is a big day. As I mentioned in the beginning, this is Friday here. It's already early Saturday morning. It's like 3 o'clock in the morning, I think, in Japan right now. And at 9 today, the people of Japan, they won't all wake up at 9, I guess. Some will get up earlier, but it's a Saturday there. They'll wake up, they'll get coffee, they'll read the paper, and Abs, they will turn on the television to watch the first ever matchup between two Japanese-born starting pitchers in a playoff game, as Yu Darvish takes on Yamamoto in Game 5, a winner-take-all game. It's a huge, huge day for baseball in Japan.
Right. And, we've seen the media that Shohei Ohtani can bring. I mean, we got a good taste of it in the All-Star game. That was media mayhem like I have never seen before. So it is really exciting, for this international element to come into play today. It's already such an important game. The numbers are definitely interesting for today. I know that we're going to dive into them, but just for what it is today and the series here at hand, I mean, there's a lot of really cool history that's about to take place in LA tonight.
Yeah, and she mentions the name Shohei Ohtani, who I left out because I was just talking about the pitching matchup. But how great is that? Ohtani, as we've heard and as he said many times, he grew up idolizing Yu Darvish.
Right.
And actually has not hit very well. He hits well against everybody. Hasn't hit very well against Darvish. He was 0 for 3 in Game 2 of this series against Yu Darvish. So perhaps there's still a little bit of that, intimidation, that idol starstruck stuff. Yeah. But it makes the matchup even that much more enticing for the people of Japan.
Yeah, and really, when you're talking about Japan, it's the whole Pacific Rim that really now loves the Dodgers. A lot of the players who are potentially going to come over are Dodgers fans and want to be with the Dodgers. And of course, the Dodgers baseball reaches to all parts of the globe now. With their scouting and signing players, and the Dodgers have done a fantastic job with it and have committed $1 billion to 2 players from Japan. I don't think they can sign them all, so that's good news for the rest of MLB. But one thing I wanted to point out about Darvish, the last time he pitched in an elimination game, definitely the last time he pitched in an elimination game at Dodger Stadium, was Game 7 of the 2017 World Series, when he was pitching for the Dodgers after the Rangers had traded him there for their playoff push. It was Game 7. It was against the Astros, and the Astros really banged him up pretty good.
It didn't go well.
They were banging trash cans at the time, but it didn't go well. And so 7 years later, he's back at Dodger Stadium now for the other side, trying to pitch that team to a victory in an elimination game. So kind of an interesting backstory, I guess. I don't know, but and Yamamoto has not pitched well against the Padres this season. His major league debut, he gave up 5 runs in the first, game 1 of this series, he gave up 5 runs in 3 innings. Dodgers ended up winning that game, but it's through 2 games at least, the Padres have his number.
Yeah. Abs, you had something to say. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, Darvish has been in this position before. He's been unsuccessful both times. He's 0 for 2 in a winner-take-all scenario. Like you mentioned, Yamamoto, not great against the Padres. He's 13 in 9 innings pitched, so you're expecting today to be a little bit of a bullpen game. But I will say Dave Roberts, 5-2 as a manager, just behind Bruce Bochy. Boch is unlimited in these winner-take-all scenarios, but Dave Roberts has a pretty nice record when it comes to these scenarios as well.
Well, and it's a point that's well taken as far as both managers, right? Dave Roberts, certainly both of them. It's all hands on deck in any elimination game right now, basically. You've got your entire bullpen available. Now, They toyed with, in part because of the numbers that Yamamoto has against the Padres, they toyed with going with another bullpen day. Dave Roberts did, and you can only do that so often, even with the off day. They used 8 pitchers on Wednesday.
Yeah.
I'm not sure they would have been able to use 8 again today. I mean, again, they will if they have to, but you don't want to plan for that.
Yeah, and maybe not maybe the same 8, but carrying different workloads, or maybe try to pitch a guy a third of an inning, use matchups, whatever. But a bullpen game works best when it goes according to plan, when these guys that you're bringing in to match up do their job and get the outs. But a couple base runners here. Here come 2 left-handed hitters. I better go get a lefty. And that maybe earlier than you wanted, or a guy you were planning for the 7th, and you got to bring him in on the 4th to get out of a big spot. So I think the safe bet is Yamamoto, despite his history against the Padres. And this is going to be the biggest stage he's pitched in. I mean, I know he's done very great things in Japan. Don't get me wrong there, but he's a $325 million player now. And, he was a huge part of what the Dodgers did this offseason to get him to this point. And so maybe there's a little more pressure on him than he's ever felt before. But whatever the case, I'm going to be watching. I had the Padres winning the series. They made it a little bit harder on themselves by having to go back to L.A., but Fernando Tatis has been great this series, but he's always been very good at Dodger Stadium, which is interesting. You've seen Mookie Betts have he should have a first inning homer in 3 straight games, if not for Profar getting his glove in the way of that one. So, it's good to see the stars, your best players, have to perform, as you say, John, and we'll see what happens. But I guess because of the Rangers ties, I'm kind of pulling for the Padres, and because I picked them, but. I don't know. Game 5 or elimination game, you kind of anything can happen.
Yeah, and there's a few caveats that I found just with my notes. So, like I mentioned, Dave Roberts is 5-2 as a manager, but when it comes to being at home, in LA, it's a 62-66 all-time record in postseason winner-take-all games. So it's actually kind of interesting that in these scenarios, historically, the home team doesn't perform well. So that's kind of one thing too. And then Darvish is 0 for 2 in all of his winner-take-all game scenarios. But then the Padres have been undefeated in all of their winner-take-all. So, it's they've had 3. The Padres have had 3 winner-take-all scenarios, and they've been successful with all of them. So it's like you have a positive for one thing, a negative for the other. It'll be interesting to see how it balances out today. But I am looking to that bullpen for sure. The Dodgers have won 17 of their past 25 bullpen games since 2022. So apparently Doc knows something, and he knows the right pieces at the right time. It'll be a really good baseball game. I'm excited for it.
There is just no doubt it will have worldwide attention. We know that, like Jeff said, the entire Pacific Rim and certainly most of Japan that has any interest in baseball will be watching this game. And Jeff, I have not crossed paths much with you, Darvish, pretty much since he left. I know none of us really have, not that often. When I read his quotes now, and we know when he was here, he could speak pretty good English.
Right.
But when I read his quotes now, I hear a maturity right? A much more mature guy, which makes sense. It's been quite a few years. I hear experience talking. I hear a guy who seems much more composed and ready for a situation like this.
Yeah, Abby and I, this came up the other day. He has 12 seasons of big league time.
Yeah.
That's crazy. He's 37 now. I haven't talked to him, obviously, as much as we did. But, we run into him at spring training, and I've ran into him at an All-Star game at the 2017 World Series. I ran into him. He used to be great about responding to Twitter messages, DMs. So he has changed. And, you hear stories about, things he did for people who work for the Rangers. Like he brought the clubhouse attendants over 1 year to Japan, paid for their trip.
Wow.
And just did little things like that. He has a wife and a larger family now. They've had several kids, or not several, I'd say more than 2 kids. And it comes with age, but he's faced all these teams a lot. He's seen every situation in the majors. He had a tough time in Chicago and found himself again in San Diego. So there should be some maturity there.
Yeah, no doubt about it. We look forward to that. We look forward to Game 5. Any winner-take-all game is so much fun, and we'll continue to talk about that. We've also got to talk about the Yankees, who punched their ticket to the ALCS, and there's another winner-take-all game today. Actually, that one's tomorrow. We'll talk about that a little later in the show when we are keeping up with the Joneses. All coming up on the DLLS Rangers Podcast. But first, I want to remind you that Blue Chew is an online service that delivers the same active ingredients as Viagra, Cialis, and Levitra at a fraction of the cost. The process is simple with Blue Chew. All you do is consult with one of our licensed medical providers, and once you're approved, you receive a prescription within days. Blue Chew tablets are made in the United States. They're prepared and shipped directly to your door. Thus, you can eliminate any of the uncomfortable conversations that may be had with doctors or pharmacists. Yeah, it can be a little uncomfortable. You take them anytime, day or night, and you can plan ahead or be ready whenever the opportunity arises. So you have to ask yourself if it works and if you need it. And I think most of you will say the answer is yes to both of those things. We've got a special deal for our listeners. Try Blue Chew for free when you use the promo code ALLCITY at checkout. Pay only $5 for the shipping. That's BlueChew.com, promo code ALLCITY to receive your first month for free. Visit BlueChew.com, and more details are available, more important safety information. And we thank Blue Chew for sponsoring this podcast.
And if you're trying to be at your best, you got to look your best. And to do that, to support your favorite team, you need to go to FOCO, which is a pretty cool website. I've been checking it out. They have shoes. You can get in the spirit of Texas OU weekend. You can get a pair of Texas shoes or a pair of Oklahoma shoes. I don't know if you can get it before kickoff, but if you're an OU fan or UT fan, there you go. Get fitted in the best sports gear around at FOCO, hoodies, shoes, signs, bobbleheads, everything in between. They even got overalls, all right? Overalls, the set decorations. Some of the set decorations back here were donated by FOCO. So check out FOCO.com or click the link in the description below for all non-pre-sale items. Use the promo code DLLS10 for 10% off.
That's fantastic. And speaking of fantastic, Gerrit Cole was fantastic yesterday. Last night, it was the Yankees against the Royals. We anticipated sort of that type of performance from a guy like him. And Abs, he came through in a big way, giving the Yankees pretty much everything they needed. Now, they gave him everything he needed too, but it was a very Gerrit Cole-like performance.
Yes, and I was going to say, Rads, I know that you love this game because, this was the traditional 7 innings pitch, a setup guy, and then a closer. No, it was great. And I think one thing that maybe has been a little overlooked is the Yankees bullpen. They did not allow an earned run in the ALDS in 15 2/3 innings pitched. I mean, that's pretty impressive. Clay Holmes alone has yet to allow a run in 13 postseason innings. So, Gerrit Cole is going to be Gerrit Cole and do Gerrit Cole things. One thing that I thought was kind of interesting was for the Yankees. This is where their season ended in 2023. So they have, not so great memories at this exact same place a year ago. And, they didn't make it to the postseason and it hurt. And they had a kind of a team meeting just to remember that moment and use it as a little bit of a momentum, I guess, or just, hey, remember, what they did to us last year. We can kind of do that back to them this season. The Yankees guys said they thought about it, kind of left a little sour taste in their mouth. And so they were ready to go, and make it to the next round. I mean, it's been so long since this team's been, at the World Series level. They're 8 wins away from their final goal. And, I've been saying it for a while. I think this team is kind of due for it. But yeah, it was a great win yesterday.
Yeah, a World Series would be their 28th title.
Amazing.
And
this is their
crazy.
19th ALCS.
19th ALCS. Yeah. So there were some years there. There's some years there. People are wondering, who might be wondering, how does that add up?
Right.
27 World Series and 19 ALCS.
Yeah.
Well, back in the day, they just went straight to the World Series.
Yep.
Yeah. So Babe Ruth and all those years he was winning it, there was no ALCS. But anyway, about Gerrit Cole, it was great. He's the reigning American League Cy Young winner. He missed the first 4 months of the season.
Yeah.
With an elbow deal, some nerve issues. So really, he's relatively fresh.
Yes.
And he should be able to go 7 innings. And I think that's kind of, you obviously you don't want to ground this guy into the ground because he's getting paid so much money. But keep that in mind. Keep that in mind because he doesn't have the same wear and tear that some of these other starting pitchers might be feeling just because he hasn't pitched nearly the innings as a guy who started the season healthy and pitched throughout. The Yankees, it seems like, are always going to be able to produce just enough offense. They have so many guys that can do it, and I know it was a low scoring series, but I think that if their bullpen is good, which has been up and down throughout the year, if they're getting good performances from Cole and Clark Schmidt and Neris and Rodon, if those guys keep them in the game, the Yankees are just going to be able to scratch something together. It just feels like.
Yeah, and in this series, Aaron Judge offensively was pretty much non-existent, and he finally had his first extra base hit yesterday, and he did drive in a run, and it's probably not too surprising that Judge and Soto, were 2 of the guys that drove in 2 of the 3 runs, and then you had Gleyber Torres, who was also involved and drove in a run. But you're right. Realistically, the Yankees haven't been the Yankees offensively, but realistically, I don't know. Maybe it's that they're pitching Aaron Judge so well, but I think it might just be him putting too much pressure on himself, right? Gripping the bat a little too tight.
Yeah, that's, these guys are human. They feel the same things. These ball players, despite what analytics people would want you to believe, are not robots. They do not live in a vacuum. They get all sorts of emotions, just like you and I or Abby would. And he probably, he knows he's the American League MVP, and expectations are on him. Every game is on national television, and maybe he is trying to do too much, but hey, he doesn't have to. He saw Giancarlo Stanton the other night behind him hit a key home run. He has Juan Soto who hits ahead of him. There are just a lot of different ways for the Yankees to score. I mean, Anthony Volpe bats 7th or 8th for them, and he's a good little hitter. So I think that he's going to be fine. I think he's going to realize I just got to be me.
Yep.
And being me is going to be good enough. And it's hard to treat it like a regular season game, but if he can somehow get that mentality, then maybe that helps him out. But I'm not too worried about Aaron Judge.
No,
honestly. Yeah.
I'm not either. But Aaron Boone did say, it was such a low offensive scoring series, and he does plan on changing that in the ALCS. I looked into it a little bit. If the Tigers were to match up, the Yankees wouldn't see Skubal until Game 3. So that's definitely going to present a challenge for Detroit if they are able to advance to the next round.
Yeah, no doubt about it. It's one of the reasons the Tigers obviously, and we'll get to that game when Abby's dad, Todd, joins us a little later in the show. We'll talk lots about that game and about the Tigers, but obviously they would have liked to get it done yesterday to where they could use Tarek Skubal in game 1 against, now we know it'll be the New York Yankees, but unable to get it done yesterday, and so unable to do that. Now, Jeff, you mentioned how Anthony Volpe is a pretty good little hitter. He hit, hit from the shortstop position with his glove on. I mean, just kind of, basically protecting himself. But it was a benches clearing, bullpen clearing situation, a little feistiness in this game last night. No punches were thrown, but look, at that point, Kansas City's playing for their lives. Right. I mean, I'm not surprised that they were playing all out, and I don't. In that case, I don't fault Volpe for having the reaction he did.
Yeah, they were wound pretty tight. Their season's on the line. They had this great campaign, and were hoping to advance, and knew if they lost, that was it. So and things do get tense. This is baseball competition at its highest level. The best teams, the best players, and so and it's tough being a shortstop or a middle infielder and trying to protect yourself. There's the notion where if a guy comes in hard, you throw it low to like basically Rougned Odor did to Jose Bautista before their little brawl there, but. That's just something that middle infielders have always been able to use, or a hard tag, something like that. And hey, it's competition, like I said, and these guys maybe there's some gamesmanship involved. I don't know, but I'm glad calmer heads prevailed ultimately, because you don't want a game marred like that, or any suspensions potentially. Probably wouldn't happen in the postseason. I mean, if Brian Abreu didn't get suspended last postseason for hitting Adolis Garcia, what appeared to be incredibly intentionally done. He did get suspended to start the next season, but they're not going to affect the outcome of a postseason series with that.
No.
Yeah. And I will say, guys, I had to talk some sense into these people at the Dallas airport, because I was sitting there eating my dinner, and then it's the Thursday night football game full screen. And I'm like, playoff elimination baseball game with the Yankees, put the game on. They did eventually do the split screen for me, but we need a few more baseball fans.
Yeah, I tell you, I was similar, Abs. I was at one of my favorite Italian restaurants, and sitting at a table intentionally near the bar where the TVs are, and I asked the waiter, I had my wife and my daughter with me, and I said, I'm going to see if they can turn the baseball game on, and they're both like, Thursday night football in Texas, we better not. So I asked the waiter, I go,
to the side.
Right. I asked the waiter, I go, do you mind if we doesn't? He goes, you know what? And both my wife and daughter go, yeah, probably not. And he goes, no, nobody's requested this game. We just automatically turned it on. So he flipped over to the baseball game for me. Yeah. Because that particular little spot only has one TV. So it could have theoretically, we could have come to blows, to be honest with you, Jeff. I mean, if I have to, I'll fight for baseball, Abs.
It's playoff baseball.
I pulled out my phone and my computer. I had the Tigers game on one and then the Yankees on the other. So it was good, but I'm like, people, can we do a little something? I mean, it's Thursday night football, and they got a night.
Yeah, this is the postseason, people, and it's been great. It's been a really fun postseason, and, things are beginning to settle. I mean, obviously now, with the Yankees winning, you're getting to the team, right, that was supposed to win in that series, just based on the seeding, the team that had the best record in the American League. That team won, and they didn't even need Game 5 to do it.
Yeah, I thought they would win the series. We have video proof of it. I'm kind of redeeming myself after my 0 for Wednesday, but it's and they kind of buck the trend of the teams getting the byes and getting beat. The Yankees are good. There's just no way around it. They're good. They're a veteran club. They've been in the postseason before. Juan Soto's still young, yes, but he won a World Series earlier in his career. So they just have a very good combination of things going for them in their favor. And it'll be interesting to see how the second round unfolds, whether it's the Tigres or the Guardians.
Yes, it will be. We've got a very special treat for you coming up because we are going to talk to a former Tiger, a Tiger who played in the World Series the last time they were there, way back in 2006. We're going to talk to Todd Jones as we keep up with the Joneses, and we'll also get him to weigh in on our thought about the potential elimination of the starting pitcher. That's all coming up on the DLLS Rangers podcast. If you're going to that big game down at the Cotton Bowl this weekend, one thing you'll need to do is tailgate. And if you are going to tailgate, that right there at the bottom of the screen is what you need, a Rugged Road cooler. There's not a cooler out there that will keep things colder for you than the Rugged Road cooler. And there's not a cooler out there that is lighter than the Rugged Road cooler. And how about the Prophet? Come on, Prophet. It's all right if you're seeing the Prophet doing his job, getting that cooler right up in here for me to show you how great it is as we've got this Rugged Road right here. It is a beautiful cooler. If you look inside, we've got different parts in here. We've got a basket that holds a water bottle and plenty of spaces and plenty of room. And I see that there are water stains in here, which means the Stars have probably had beer on their podcast again. And I'm a little bit jealous about that. But Rugged Road, get yourself a Rugged Road. DLLS is the code for you to get the discount on Rugged Road coolers.
Yeah, and if you're going to get a Rugged Road cooler, you need to be wearing clothes that are built for the outdoors, but also to look good and represent us. And you can do so at store.allcitynetwork.com. I'm really excited to get home today because I think my shirts are going to arrive.
Beautiful. Me too.
Yeah, I've got 3 Ranger shirts and the TCU shirt coming. These are high-quality shirts, comfortable, and they really look cool with some sweet designs. So if you want to be cool like we are, and I know you do,
who doesn't?
Then absolutely go to store.allcitynetwork.com. Get your shirt. Hoodies are available. Hats. I saw Mark Stein wearing a DLLS hat, so I'm going to have to figure out where the heck he got that. And do it now. Store.allcitynetwork.com.
That's fantastic. That is, I'm a little jealous of Mark Stein, too. I'm not a big hat guy, but I don't even think there are any DLLS hats yet.
Well, apparently there's a prototype or something.
Made one for Stein, huh? Okay. All right. We're looking out for that, and we're looking out for you. And we are thrilled now to welcome back into the program Abby Jones and welcome with her dad. Look at him there, Todd Jones. Man, Todd, first of all, I don't know if you're sitting there when I said it at the beginning, but I couldn't love those office chairs more. That's on my Christmas list this year, Todd.
What was interesting was I got those from our clubhouse manager in Detroit when I retired, Jim Schmakel, and we do a Bible study in my
room?
in my basement on Tuesday night. And we've got 10 of them, so they've lasted a long time, and they're super comfortable, and also gives a shout out. So it's exciting.
Yeah, it's fantastic. So, man, how fun has it been, Todd, to watch this Tigers team? And obviously we talked a little bit about it at the end of the year, but not only to have done what they did at the end of the year, but then sweep the Astros, and they've for sure at least forced a Game 5 here, and they're sending their best guy out there, the best guy in the American League, out to the mound on Saturday.
Yeah, I think the entire playoff run for everyone has been very exciting. I think nobody expected the Mets to do what they did to the Phillies, and I don't think many people anticipated much trouble for the Yankees. The Yankees are really, really, really good. The Dodger-Padres series is going to be a lot of fun, and the Tigers have got their magic bullet going for Game 5, so that should be exciting in Detroit. But there's a lot of these teams that are pushing the same kind of momentum the Rangers did last year, from the 2 weeks on the road, and then their first 2 rounds on the road, and then they ended up taking all that all the way to a world championship. So it's weird because you look at the Tigers playoff roster payroll is $19 million. And that would never play over the course of 162 games, but it plays in the playoffs. And it's exciting for the guys. I've had a chance to be around them this season. They're all really, really young guys, really humble guys that just want to work and don't really know any better about what's going on. And it's fun for them. So, Cleveland brings a different kind of problem. But you don't know what happens in a game 5, what you guys were talking about, a bad hop or somebody runs into a hanging breaking ball, can change the series. So it's going to be exciting.
It's funny though, because when you guys were talking, introducing him, and he was, going to come join the show, he was sitting on the couch, and I'm like, "Are you coming out of the bullpen here?"
Love it.
That's what he's used to doing,
Yeah, I love it.
Take the first 8 innings off and then come on in.
Yeah, that's
there you go.
exactly right. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the way.
She's
That's
in
the way.
bullpen too.
That's the way it goes. The starters, you guys carry the bulk of the load, and then I get to come in and wave at everybody and equal TV time. So it's great.
But
Yeah,
my dad was telling me something interesting with Cleveland. The Guardians stayed at 3 different hotels because the city of Detroit just didn't expect the Tigers to kind of have this run, and the team being split up in 3 different hotels. What were you saying about Tigers not packing though?
Yeah, in an elimination game, the Tigers were not about to bring their luggage to hop on a plane and go to Cleveland, because that's just bad karma.
Bad juju.
Sure.
Bad juju. So I imagine they did a workout at Comerica today, and then they will head on the 45-minute flight to Cleveland tonight and get ready for game 5. But the same thing with the Royals. The Royals last night absolutely brought their luggage to the ballpark, anticipating flying to New York, because that's what you do. You go in there and you expect to win. But it's just kind of the ins and outs of the travel of the postseason. I bet the Yankees, obviously, they don't care who they play, but it's both in the central part of the U.S., so they'll be excited about that.
I would imagine though that if they're looking at things and that they would want to face the Tigers just because Skubal won't be available till so deep into the series. That's just my hunch. If
No, I don't. I think you're exactly right. I think on paper, the Tigers, there's not a lot of guys that really bring into any sort of anxiety that a Soto, Judge, and Stanton would do.
Sure.
So you would absolutely want to face the Tigers, and then with Tarek only might be able to go 3 and 7. That gives the Yankees a clear advantage. But the Yankees and the Tigers are 2 completely different stories, and I think I think Cleveland might give them a little bit of a more of a pause, but then kind of what we did when we did our run. Nobody really anticipated us, and then we ended up capping some kids in the knees and ended up winning series we weren't supposed to win either. So, it's exciting. But then again, on a 7-game set against someone of the magnitude of the Yankees, you're going to have to be a really, really, really good team, and you can't just be hot. I don't think. I think Gerrit Cole last night, his arm is all the way back, and he was slide stepping last night, 99, and his cutter was incredible, and they've got a great lineup, and they've got nice bullpen pieces, so they're built like the Dodgers and maybe even the Padres to go very, very deep. So those over the past 10 or 15 years, those are the teams that kind of do it.
So, Todd, what's the in your estimation, what's the story with this Cleveland offense? all of a sudden. Again, the Tigers only have one starting pitcher, and then they've got the chaos. But we've played 4 games in this thing, and they had a 20-inning stretch where they didn't score at all against just a litany of different Tiger pitching. Is Cleveland's offense built strongly enough to go all the way?
I don't know about that, but I think you guys have hit it on the head the last couple times during your broadcast about making sure that, first of all, Jose Ramirez for the Indians doesn't get anything to hit.
Guardians.
For the Guardians. Sorry.
Yeah, hey, me too. John did it yesterday.
Yeah, I beat you to it. Yeah.
Sorry. It's the Rays and the Florida Marlins for me too. So don't kill it. But I mean, obviously, with a player such as Ramirez and only having to really have that one guy that you really got to focus on, you can take him out of the equation. But the Tigers did a really cool job of like Swiss Army knife in this Cleveland lineup and giving them different mix and matches to be able to cause some chaos, and they've certainly done that. So I don't know if they're built to really win the whole thing, because I just think the Yankees are just kind of built different. And I just think, the 3 great, like think about it. I mean, we talked about it in the Tigers pregame when they were playing the Yankees. Like, I can't think of anybody any 3 combo that's any more powerful than Soto, Judge, and Stanton.
Sure.
Throughout almost baseball history. And I think when you give those guys 7 games, I think those kind of players find a way to really rise to the top. And I just think that they're just kind of built a little bit different.
Yeah. To your point, Ramirez is the only guy you got to worry about in the Cleveland lineup. So They do a lot of platooning, as we've talked about, Stephen Vogt pinch hitting early in
second
game
inning.
3, so these smaller market teams have to leverage their platoons and find a way to make it work, which can happen real well in the offseason, but there's not a huge offensive ceiling for the postseason, which you're going to need. And then like the Yankees have. So I worry about Cleveland's ability to score, really Detroit's ability to score against the Yankees or going forward, just because they're platoon heavy. If they get into their bench too early, then that limits them late. So it seems like there's some limiting factors with a team that has so many platoon players.
Right. And I think, we kind of mentioned this yesterday, when pitching chaos is the method, and this is like more so a question to you, would that force the hand of the other team? And maybe for the Guardians, that works. But I would think that the Yankees are too well versed, because you really can't force their hand to like throw off their game plan, right?
Right.
But I think that pitching chaos can work in the matchup against the Guardians, where you're throwing in a pinch hitter and it's all situational and stuff like that. And to your point, Yankees are built so different because you can't really throw too much that they're like, oh, scratch our game plan. And, we're going off what's happening right now. Like, I just don't think the Yankees are that kind of club.
Yeah.
So those tricks might not work at the championship, like the ALCS round.
Yeah, because, I mean, when you look at the Yankees lineup, there's probably 4 or 5 immovable at-bats that are not going to be, pinch hit for, because those guys are oak trees. Those guys are Hall of Famers. They're elite, and they're built to withstand all kind of different pitching approaches and things like that. And Jose Ramirez for the Guardians is in that same category, because don't sleep on this guy. This guy's going to be in the top 5 in the MVP because he's a great player.
For sure.
But the problem with the Guardians lineup is they don't have other guys that are as talented to be able to give Ramirez some cushioning and some support. So you'll see other clubs. You'll see the Tigers tomorrow. Ramirez won't get anything to hit. There's no question about that. But to your guys' point about what Stephen Vogt did yesterday, he he held his pinch hitters
Yeah.
late in the game, and he learned his lesson from game 3 when AJ kind of initiated
Yep.
them making them pinch hit, but then in game 4,
forcing the hand.
Voit kind of had to kind of wait patiently, and it's almost like waiting for that river card in Texas Hold'em, and just kind of hoping you're going to get that extra club so you can get the flush, and hopefully it presented itself like it did yesterday.
Yeah.
For the Guardians.
Yeah, I thought you'd switch to golf in the middle of your analogy because I pretty much always need the extra club there. But we got more coming up with Todd Jones as we continue to talk about the Tigers. We continue to talk about this elimination game in the ALDS, and we want to get to him about the topic we brought up yesterday. Is it the end of an era for the starting pitcher? We'll talk with Todd about that in just a few minutes here on the DLLS Rangers Podcast. Diehards, we want you to join us if you're not. I like to call most of our viewers, our chatters, Jeff, our listeners, I like to call most of them diehards because I think they either are or they're going to be, right?
Yeah, they're catching on. They understand. Yeah. They understand what we bring, and they're Rangers fans. They want all the access to my stories, to Cowboys stories, Stars stories, Mavs stories, whatever we write that's behind the paywall, you're going to want to read. I'm going to have some more stuff coming out this weekend. I've got a couple ideas in the hopper. Pretty excited about writing, and so you're not going to want to miss those. And there's so much news in the off season that you got to stay on top of it. And the best way to do it is to be a diehard. And
it really is. Jeff's stuff goes behind the paywall, and I've gotten a slight preview of what he wants to write about this weekend, and it's good. It's juicy. You do not want to miss it. The way to ensure that you don't is for you to become a diehard. And maybe, I don't know this, maybe if you become a diehard and go behind that Mavs paywall, I haven't done that yet, but maybe that's where Stein got his hat. I don't know.
But we gotta get to the bottom.
We're gonna get to the bottom of that one. But being a diehard will also save you 20% on all of our merchandise when all the hats are available, of which there will be many, and certainly all the shirts. And as Abby has told you guys a million times, the more you buy, the more cool, fun, awesome shirts become available. We've seen that in all the other markets. It started in Denver, ALLCITY did, and then they moved from there to Phoenix and then out to Chicago, and then it was Philadelphia, and now here. There's going to be a couple more probably that open in 2025. So they are taking the world. We are taking this country by storm. Become a diehard and join us today. Now we welcome Todd and Abby back into the program. And one thing I wanted to finish up, Todd, with the Tigers, nobody's happier about that playoff payroll. Look at like Daddy giving her a hug. Nobody's happier about that playoff payroll than Chris Ilitch, right? I mean, they're going to make a ton of money this year. This offseason will really help that. And with that payroll, this is a license for the Ilitches to print money.
Well, I mean, to some degree it is, but I think they're still paying Miguel Cabrera. They still have to pay Javi Baez. Kente Maeda is still on the payroll. What they've done, they were able to with Javi Baez's injury, they were able to put him on the 60-day DL, and that made room for Trey Sweeney. The Tigers are in a different situation because all of their players are just really young, so they're not able to, through what you guys talked about a couple weeks ago in arbitration and things like that. None of these guys are concerned about any of that yet. There was some there. So from a player's perspective, there was some interesting things that the Tigers did this year with Spencer Torkelson when they sent him out.
That was during the Rangers series.
That prevented him from possibly being a Super 2 to arbitrate this year. So there was some maneuvering around. Scott Harris is very, very creative and very, very smart, and he's able to manipulate and control some of the payroll. Like I've said kind of during this whole run, the good thing about the Tigers, what they did, making it to the playoffs and making it this far, is showing Mr. Ilitch that they have earned the right free agent. And you know, looking at your list of the Astros and the Rangers and you know, players like that, I mean, you know, there's some potential fits. AJ's familiar with Bregman. The Tigers don't have an everyday third baseman. You know, you have to wonder what Bregman's deal looks like. Is it a 10-year deal? I don't know his exact age. He's probably 29 or 30. I don't know if it'd be a 10-year deal, but you know, it's interesting. There's what I'm saying is for the Tiger fans, for baseball fans, teams that are close, you can see their ownership pushing a lot of the chips in, like the Rangers did a few years ago with Seager and Simeon. It's time for the Tigers to reload and have an opportunity to bring a new guy in.
Yep, Bregman turns 31 right after the season starts. So I would say 7 years maximum. You know, I had somebody tell me that 38 is kind of the age where teams don't want to go past in terms of the length of a contract. And so, you know, and if you're still
MVP, if you're Cabrera and you're an MVP or a Triple Crown winner, you were thinking surely that he would bring us a championship, so they gave him the longer deal, and they knew they were going to run into some issues the last 2 or 3 years to help him get through his 10-year deal. Albert Pujols was kind of the same thing, except for the last year of his deal, because he was amazing. But that's when it comes down to those kind of players, whether it's a Bryce Harper, a Shohei Ohtani, you know, Josh Hamilton, Pujols, players like that can command the length of the contracts. The clubs are thinking, my gosh, surely we're going to win a championship between this. So you just kind of look at it as those last couple years of cashing in on some big milestones for those type of players, and which the Tigers were able to do. He had 3,000 hits and 500 home runs. That helped, and then his last season was just a love fest. Every weekend was a T-shirt or a
farewell tour,
and really they really did a good job of taking advantage of making sure that the fans were able to come by and say gracias Miggy, or you know, ever how they're going to justify it. But you know, it's great. It's great to see teams that are in it, that are contributing and that are bringing in good players, because let me tell you guys, from when I was playing to what is required now to get deep in the playoffs, you can't have any holes. And championship teams that don't catch lightning in a bottle, they have covered all of their bases, because there are no holes anymore in good championship teams.
And
go ahead.
Like, is there any team that maybe you had all the pieces on paper, but it didn't work out? Because, you know, I think the most impressive thing about the Tigers run from 2006 was that it was just this perfect storm, you know, kind of like the moving pieces that we saw with all of the transactions from Chris Young. I don't know, like, I think with the Dodgers game today, a lot of people are like, oh, if this doesn't work out, then there's a lot at stake, because the offseason was such a huge investment.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, looking back on my minuscule career, and I, you know, there was a time in 2003 in Boston where I was part of that team that had 9 guys that hit 20 home runs or more, scored a lot of runs, and we lost in Game 7 because Aaron Boone hit the home run over my left shoulder in the bullpen in Yankee Stadium to put the Yankees in the World Series. So, I mean, it takes a lot of you know, health, who's hot, and good players, you know, to have a chance to run very, very deep. So obviously the sexy teams that everybody talks about are the ones that are still hanging around, and those are the ones you're going to have to deal with.
Yeah, and when you talk about those sexy teams, typically, Todd, you're talking about players whose names are almost household. Generally, you're not talking about the Justin Henry Malloys of the world and the Kerry Carpenters of the world, right? And some Andy Ibanez we know because he was here, but this isn't a household name. McKinstry. There's a lot of unknown. Like Google's been so busy during this series as everybody's going, who the heck is Justin Henry Malloy? You know,
it's really good because that's exactly what's going on, and really to be like as a national perspective, the Tigers have had an awesome time and way to go, but the networks want the Yankees to win. The networks, the networks want the Yankees and the Dodgers along with
100%.
I think the rest of America. So it'll be interesting.
Yep, no doubt about it. So we want to bring up this topic to you. You probably saw it because you're such a loyal watcher, and we appreciate it. But with regard to, again, Major League Baseball is trying to accomplish the same thing I like by proposing the implementation of a minimum of 6 innings for starting pitchers in the future. It seems as though analytics, I guess we can blame everything on that, but it seems as though analytics is trying to, in essence, eliminate the starting pitcher, right, and end up with a lot of this chaos, like what the Tigers have sort of been forced to do during this postseason. What are your thoughts about that? I mean, we need starting pitchers, don't we?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, probably two things are going on. Those ridiculous scenarios open up conversations for people in the Major League Baseball office to actually throw this topic out and see kind of where it goes and where it lands, because I can't foresee an industry that's going to, force or find teams that don't have starting pitching going long, things like that. But what it does is it may say, hey, minor league developers, why don't we try to go back to a minimum of 100 pitches for the starting pitchers, things like that. But the problem is it's just really difficult because of the analytics. It's really difficult for one starting pitcher to go through a lineup 3 times. There's just really not that many Nathan Eovaldi's. As you're seeing starting salaries skyrocket, there's really not those many Gerrit Coles, you Darvishes that are even in the conversation. The guy Wheeler and Aaron Nola in Philly, those guys make $40 million because the market is not flooded with guys that can go 200 innings. So they're finding it easier to steal games in the 5th, 6th, and 7th inning, and then you hand it over to Emmanuel Clase, and it is just ridiculous. That some people used to call me a closer, and then they call him a closer. It's two different animals. For sure. But with
same text, different font.
But with the evolution of the matchup mentality and the sheer bulk of guys in the minor leagues that can throw 100 miles an hour, those matchups are easier to come up with because there's just not that much starting pitching available. So we've got to try to find a way, to your guys' point, we got to try to find a way to grow the mentality of not having every organization in the minor leagues pull the ripcord on these guys' careers and turn them into relievers, give them 2 lights out pitches, and it turn into a bullpen game, because nobody wants to come watch a starting pitcher that they have to Google.
Yeah.
And so you're going to see all the money start to be on the field to just the position players, because you can't market. Come see our starting pitcher that comes and throws every 5 days. It's just difficult to do.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a big Max Scherzer thing. He is so big on bringing back the starting pitcher. Maybe when he's finished with his playing career, that'll become his campaign. Though I think he said he's done with the players' union after the last go round. But it is. I mean, it's a whole segment of player that's in the union right now that is about to lose a ton of money if this trend continues. and so obviously the players want value for all their players, but yeah, I mean, to find teams and do stuff like that, there's got to be a common middle ground. And I like your idea of it going back to player development, because you get relievers these days who do not pitch back-to-back days. There's a reliever of the Rangers called up this year who had never pitched back-to-back days in his career until he did it in the big leagues, and that's not the time to do it. You got a lot to find out. It's still a big deal in spring training for relievers to go back-to-back days. That's one of the last things they have to clear in their readiness for a season. And now, you see starting pitchers, it used to be 6 innings in spring training not that long ago. And now it's like 5 and they get to 80. Okay, well, we can get to 90, and then on opening day, that'll get us 6 innings. It's just all different. And, the one thing that sticks to me about the going through the 3 times the order, this is something Mike Maddox has said to me. He said, for 125 years, batters went through the order, or pitchers went through the order 3 times without any problems whatsoever, without any concerns at all. And now all of a sudden they can't do it. And it just seems like there's a lot of baseball history on the side of going ahead and letting these starting pitchers go.
Well, I would respectfully say to Max and to Mr. Maddox that there has never been a dissection of pitchers mechanics and pitch shaping, and then hitter swings and identifying weaknesses like there is in this game.
Sure.
And there's not many players, I don't care who it is, that can get Aaron Judge, Shohei Ohtani, Mike Trout, Corey Seager out, three times in one game because of their knowledge of tendencies of pitch sequencing and things like that. So, there is some sort of a way to find a correction, and I think it's going to start kind of like the Joe Garagiola used to go talk to all the minor league players about not chewing tobacco, right? Because he couldn't talk to the big leaguers, but he would talk to the minor leaguers. And over the course of 15 or 20 years, you hardly see anybody on television chewing tobacco now.
Mm-hmm.
So it's got to be a grassroots program, like an indoctrination of an organization saying, hey, we're going to, like Nolan Ryan did with the Rangers, hey, we're going to make starting pitching important because we're going to try to see if we can get back to the guys wrapping their head around 100 pitches. The problem is with the pitching labs, there's so much violence and emphasis on pitch shaping that is causing a lot of wear and tear on these guys that they've just got to decide, do we want to put them through it and see what happens, or do we want to kind of keep it like it is?
Yeah.
Abs, I know that you've got birthday parties this weekend. I assume, though, you and Dad and others will probably be watching a lot of baseball. But the most important question is, are you going to play hard and have fun?
I think we're gonna make cut pumpkins up today. Do a little pumpkin carving, so we might do that. But I'll show you guys. This is my favorite hat to wear when I'm home. Somebody made a Trade Todd Jones hat.
.com.
So you can voice your opinion. My dad's behind it, but whenever he's being my dad too much, I'll just wear this hat, and I voiced my opinion on trading. So, effective marketing here.
Like, you've made it in your career when people hate you so much, they dream up a website. They create a website to where they want you out of your town so much that they are willing.
Me and my brother both have a hat, and we'll wear it together the whole time. I mean, this is like our uniform. So
yeah, it's a tough go around here with
favorite
Abs.
thing.
That's fantastic. And
for what you guys do, and we enjoy your show. The podcast is really great. There's great,
all right, they gotta go.
Substance and topics.
No, we're supposed to ask you some questions. We're supposed to ask questions.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, let's do it.
Todd, which Star Wars movie is your favorite?
Well, I'm an old school guy, so I'm the New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi. Because
You're like me. You remember when those were in the theater too, like I do.
Yes. I was 11 years old and got a
Yep.
chance to go to see him, and you know, those are. I mean, when you're in 1977, when you can pull out a lightsaber, I mean, my head fell off. So those are the ones.
Not literally. Hang on. Here comes Ben. Here comes the big boss.
That was from me, Abby. That was my question.
I know.
She knew that.
We do have a lot in common.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. We had another one. Can you see that one, Jeff?
I can't see that far.
Hang on. Let me put my glasses on. Can you guys see it? Todd, answer it if you can see it. There we go.
Was there ever a batter Todd faced that had him in awe or felt surreal?
All of them?
Or was it always business on the mound? Really, actually, good question. That's actually one of the biggest things that younger players have to overcome, right? I mean, the name on the back of the jersey and the decks on the stadium, because those, when you're dreaming about playing in the major leagues and then I faced Dale Murphy in spring training. I'll never forget it. Like as long as I live, I was so nervous I walked him. But when you grow up idolizing players and then you have to deal with them, you know, that takes a certain time that you have to get over. But I will say this, it speeds up, guys, when it's second and third and one out and you got to get out Barry Bonds.
Yeah.
All the fun and all the majesty and all the mystique goes away, because if you don't get him out, you're going to get sent down, and it's a ruthless world that sometimes you have to live in.
Yeah,
that's fantastic.
That's
man.
Awesome.
Just great perspective, Todd. As always, we appreciate you so much. Abs, of course, we appreciate you. We want you guys to have a great celebratory weekend, and we'll all reconvene again on Monday and do another edition of the DLLS Rangers Podcast. Thanks for joining us.
We all silly like the mayor.